What's going on? I am Julie Schatz. I'm a singer-songwriter, music producer, and multi-instrumentalist. My YouTube channel is Julie Schatz Music. I've got tutorials on there, beats, original music to come, and I'm giving away sample packs as well on that channel. So make sure you go check that out. Super excited to be back at it with Splice, giving you another tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about chords and using extensions to make your chords a little bit more interesting. So we're going to go over a couple of options for this for both major and minor chords. I'm not going to go over all of the possibilities, but I am going to present to you a couple of examples that are really commonly used both in major and minor chords that are really going to take your chords to the next level if you don't yet use extensions. And the best part is you do not have to have a lot of music theory knowledge to do this. You do need to know your basic triads, but beyond that, I am going to show you a formula between major and minor intervals of how to find these extensions. I'm going to show you from the perspective of the piano roll in a DAW. I'm using Logic in this case, and I'm also simultaneously going to show you on my controller. So here we go. So I've got two tracks here. One is just simply a major chord and one is a minor chord. Let's listen to the major chord first. So I'm in the key of C, as you can see, and this is my triad here. I've got a 1, 3, a major 3, a 5, and this is the 7. So on my controller, 1, 3, 5, and we've added the 7. And the simple way of finding the 7 in the major chord is between the 5 and the 7 is simply a major third triad. And if you're not as familiar with those intervals, one way to think of it is in terms of half steps versus whole steps. So it's a major interval here because we've got two whole steps. So 1, we're skipping this black note there, and then 2, this is the second whole step, skipping that black note there. So major third, 5, and 7. Now for the minor, let's take a listen to that. We're also in the key of C, so we've got our C, E flat is the minor third, G is the 5th, and then our minor 7 is a B flat. So between the 5 and the minor 7 is a minor third interval. So we got whole, skipping this black key, and then a half step. Now when we look at extensions, it's important to keep in mind that we're going to be using numbers that exceed 8. So normally you have 7 notes in a scale, and once you get to the 8th note, it's just repeating the first note of your scale. But we're using numbers beyond that when we use the 7 in the chord because those extensions are in relation to that 7. The first extension that we're going to talk about is the 9. And the 9, you can simply think of it as the 2 plus 7 because we're using it in conjunction with the 7. So I'm going to show you how to find the 9 both in major and minor and what that sounds like. So back to our major chord, we've got 1, 3, 5, 7. The way you find the 9 is it's a minor third interval between the 7 and the 9. So if we just add that note here, let's just listen first again what this sounds like without the 9, then with the 9. So on our keyboard, now for the minor chord, again without the 9. Now we're going to add the 9. Finding the 9, you're going to be using a major third interval. The 9 is going to be this D here. And just again to show you from the piano roll that this is a major interval, we've got B flat here, and we've got a whole step going to C, skipping this white note here, and then we've got another whole step because we're skipping this black note. So that's our major interval. And so now we've got our 9 added, and that's what this sounds like. And again, from the controller perspective, the 9 is great because you can use it similarly between major 7 chords and minor 7 chords. I'm going to be talking about a few other extensions, but we're going to be going a little bit more intricate in terms of major versus minor and the different ways of using these extensions. And let's start off with the minor chord. So again, we've got our 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And another common extension we can add to this is the 11, which is the G up here. Now you will notice here the interval difference is not just a minor third or a major third. An easy way to find the 11 is you can simply use that number 7, since it is considered an 11 because of that 7, and take that 11 minus the 7 would be 4. So how do we find the 4? Well, we've got our triad down here, 1, 3, 5. So the 4 is going to be in between the 3 and the 5. And you do need to have some sense of your scales. So in this case, the 4 would be this F here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll show you from the controller. Triad, minor 7, 9. And we're going to find the 11 is that F there, but we're going to put it on top. Now on to major. So a common extension you can use beyond the 9 in a major chord is a 13. So 13 would be up here, it would be this A. And again, we're going to use the formula 13 minus 7 equals 6. So the A is simply the 6th note of the C major scale, and we can find that by going back to our triad, 1, 3, 5. A would be the 13, and we're playing it an octave up. So this is what that sounds like. So you might want to actually move this down. From the keyboard perspective, got 1, 3, 5, and again 5, 6, that would be our 13. So if we're playing it continually going up, or when you play it below the 7. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. And you can also simply do a C major. This would still be considered major, and then a 6 instead of a 7. It is important to use these extensions as it makes sense within the context of your progression. But an extension like a 9, you can really use it all over the place. Let's say if you're in a minor key and you're really just playing minor chords, you can add the 9 really to each chord, and it will generally sound more lush and create a more interesting tone in your track. For example, if I go back to that C minor 9, and then let's say I'm playing the 4 as well in this progression. So the 4 would be the F, and we've got our minor third, 5, minor 7, and this is the major interval above the minor 7 is the G, so there's your 9 in context of the F minor chord. And we can continue on with that G minor with the 9. So really this is just an introduction to extensions, but it does show you some really common extensions you can use to make your chords sound more interesting. I do hope you found this helpful to give you an introduction. If you're not using extensions in your chords, you're really missing out on creating more dynamics, more of an interesting tone to your tracks. If you have questions, make sure you comment below. And thank you so much for watching.